Days of Revolt, I think. Can they bring it up? I'll give it back.
Raise the microphone, please.
Okay. So I wrote a book a few years ago called American Fascists, the Christian Right, and the War on America. I was trying to reach out to them. That book came out of an experience I had my final year at Harvard Divinity School with the great ethicist James Luther Adams. He was 80 and emeritus, but each year he would take 2 seniors, of which I was one, and do a British-style tutorial for the year where we would talk about resistance with a theological vocabulary. Adams had been in Germany. He was bilingual in 1935 and 1936 at the University of Heidelberg, where he watched Heidegger begin the lectures with a Nazi salute. Disgusted by the failure of German academia, and as you heard, I teach at Princeton, and I can promise you it's just as bad here, to defy the Nazi menace, he dropped out and he joined the Confessing Church, the underground anti-Nazi church led by Niemöller, Bonhoeffer, Karl Barth, Schweitzer, until he was picked up by the Gestapo and deported. And when he left Germany, he had packed into his suitcase home movie rolls, film, of not only the meetings of the Confessing Church, but the so-called German Christian Church, which fused the iconography and language of the state with the iconography and language of the Christian religion. And he put 2 portraits of Adolf Hitler over that film so that when the border guards opened up his suitcase and saw the pictures of the Führer, they closed it back up and he was able to smuggle that film out of Germany. I watched hours of that home movie film that he had taken in Germany as he narrated. And he told us that when we were his age, we would all be fighting the Christian fascists. Because when you de-industrialized a country and threw your working class into poverty and despair, and when you allowed for the rise of a religious movement that sacralized nationalism, you created a recipe for fascism. If the Nazis took over America tomorrow, he told us, I can assure you 60% of the Harvard faculty would gleefully begin their lectures with a Nazi salute. That's his quote. We are at an extremely dangerous moment in American history. We stand on the precipice of at best an authoritarian and probably a fascist state. And we on the left bear significant responsibility for what has happened. We lost our radicalism, we lost our militancy, we forgot about justice, we became infected with the discourse of neoliberalism, which is a utopian ideology, as utopian as any other ideology that has beset the 20th and 21st century, from communism to fascism. The idea that the dictates of the marketplace should somehow determine how you run your society is utopian, and I use the word as Thomas More coined it, utopian meaning no place. The idea that neoliberalism would expand democracy, that it would create, by enriching the top 1%, a middle class, that trade agreements would somehow benefit working men and women, that deregulation was an engine to economic prosperity. All of these were lies that Adams understood. Shortly before he died, I went out with a film crew. It was funded by the Lannan Foundation to interview our most important contemporary political philosopher, Sheldon Wolin, who taught at Berkeley and later at Princeton. That 3-hour interview with Sheldon is on YouTube. Wolin, in the 1980s, called out neoliberalism for the con game that it was, became a pariah within the political science department at Princeton, wrote his great book, Democracy Incorporated, which certainly gave me the vocabulary to understand the devastation that has been visited upon us. Wolin talked about the transformation of American society beginning in the early 1970s by corporate forces that reacted to what the political scientist Samuel Huntington called an excess of democracy. Lewis Powell's memo, 1971, the attack on the free enterprise system, became the blueprint. And in that memo, the one person Powell names